Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Diana Skaya. This is TVP World, and you're watching Break the Fake. Larry Johnson, a well-known ex-CIA analyst, recently made a sensational discovery. In a recent interview with Rick Sanchez, he shared a profound insight about Russia. Russians don't feel the need to impose their values on you and generally let you be who you are.
Well, look, the one thing I've always encountered, this is my 5th trip to Russia.
Yeah.
4th time to Moscow, once to St. Petersburg. The thing that sets the Russians apart from, Americans is the Russians don't feel compelled to force their values on you.
Yeah.
They're not like proselytizers or, television preachers. They sort of let you be what you are. And, I think part of that is that the Russians don't have a legacy of being a colonial empire.
Well, do you want to be yourself? Sure. But remember, in Russia, yourself is allowed only within the framework of state ideology, preferably with a St. George's ribbon on your chest, and God forbid without rainbow flags anywhere nearby. Ask any foreign agent how that works out. Russia, of course, is famous as the country where values are not human rights, but rather the state's right to you. Perhaps Johnson did not notice this because he was strolling along the painted facades where every street light screams Skabeva. He probably kept quiet about minor details like LGBTQ rights, freedom of speech, ethnic minorities, or simply say, your basic right not to be yanked from your doorway and sent off to the front line. Or maybe he was just too busy analyzing Russian grocery stores to notice the rest. At this rate, next time Larry Johnson will come back saying Russia is the only country where people still retain true spiritual values, like the value of keeping quiet about anything the FSB doesn't like. I wonder, would Russians have allowed Johnson to be himself if, for example, he took a stroll through Red Square holding a poster that says "No to War"? Or would they have let him be detained, fined, or deported? But here's the real question. Why do all these so-called Russia experts and Kremlin cheerleaders never really actually live in Russia? Well, probably because it's way easier to be yourself in Miami. Nerves are fraying on Russian television. The Kremlin's chief propagandist, Vladimir Solovyov, has once again decided to share his pain with the nation. This time, it's over Ukrainian UAV strikes reaching deep into Russian territory, which wasn't exactly part of the Russian world scenario. I don't like what's flying in our country. Solovyov complained with the same dramatic tone he once used to promise that London would soon be within the range of Sarmat missiles. But it seems as though the plan didn't really work out. Instead of expanding the radius of Russian attacks, they're now closely watching the radius that the war's damage expands further and further inside their own borders.
И здесь вот эта проблема с ПВО действительно наступает. И вы сегодня подняли вопрос...
У кого?
У Зеленского. У них прям...
Но мне тоже не нравится, что к нам вглубь прилетают. И я жду, когда мы наконец примем системное решение. Потому что я задам простой вопрос. А кто отвечает за ПВО внутри страны? И мы не найдем на него ответа. Кто должен отвечать за то, чтобы были прикрыты промышленные объекты? Как это возможно? Как привести в порядок законодательство? Потому что, хорошо, а если у нас средство ПВО упадет на какой-нибудь жилой дом, кто за это будет отвечать? У нас закон это описывает, позволяет.
Нам нужно возвращаться к Советскому воздушному кодексу,
Надо
когда Министерство обороны отвечало.
Надо просто посмотреть. У нас есть Росгвардия, которая блестяще может решить эту задачу, если дать ребятам все, что сейчас необходимо.
Amid reports of strikes on Kursk, Belgorod, and even the Moscow region, such statements aren't just complaints. In fact, they're practically an admission of defeat, and not just on the battlefield, but also in the basic logic of this entire war narrative. Solovyov, who has long treated this war like a grand spectacle, now finds it knocking on the door of his own dressing room. And let's be frank here. When Solovyov says he doesn't like it, it's like a compliment. Because Ukrainians have been living for over 3 years now with things they don't like, either such as sirens at night, explosions in the street, and homes turned to complete rubble. Let's talk now about how Russia replaces products. Because remember, in Russia, it is always better to have their own. Why pay someone else when you can make it independently? But does it look any good? That's the real question we should be asking ourselves here. Introducing the new Lada Vesta Comfort version. That's now being sold for 1.7 million rubles. That's about $21,000. For that kind of money, you can easily shop around. And if you're looking for a new car, you could consider compact sedans like the Toyota Corolla Cross, the Nissan Sentra, or the Volkswagen Jetta. Or if you're feeling thrifty, a whole range of excellent used cars in perfect condition. But no, the Russian government proudly offers this to its people. Because while it might be an important substitute, it really is more a piece of 90s nostalgia than an actual car you'd want to drive in 2025.
Смотрите, какие автомобили продаются в автосалонах. Это Lada Vesta. Вот так вот выглядит крепление спойлера. Вот так выглядит второе крепление спойлера. Вот такие вот крылья современные. Чуть-чуть коррозия идет. Смотрите, насколько сильно начал ржаветь автомобиль. Это вообще новый глушитель, мне интересно, или что это такое вот это? Не получилось, отпилили, в другом месте прихватили. Так получается? В трубках уже везде коррозия идет. Швы, смотрите, все вот эти вот как выполнены. Все гниет.
As we can see, the Russian Lada Granta is taking antique design to a whole new level. The rusty underbody? Well, that comes factory installed. They'll probably tell you that it's for a patriotic spirit so that you remember where it all began. But we shouldn't judge a car by its exterior, right? Maybe the interior holds something spectacular today. Let's take a look.
Смотрите, вот оно. Богатство и роскошь за 1 720 000. Где магнитола? Где динамики? Где высокочастотники? Где все это? Где кнопки с руля? Куда дели? Где здесь кнопки? Ой, блин, ладно, хотя бы датчик света есть, да, на автомобиле, уже хорошо. 2 розетки, одна USB, одна 12-вольтовая. Кондиционер вот с такими вот переключателями. Вроде как бы все это двигается. Вроде как бы щелкается. Ну ладно, и на том спасибо, да? Далее что? Смотрите сюда. Где зеркало? Где зеркало? Ремни не регулируются, зато сигнализация есть. Такой современный автомобиль, может быть, кто-то захочет угнать у вас, да? Не дай бог, конечно. Смотрите, здесь не открывается ничего. Да, ладно, хоть руль регулируется по вылету, по наклону. Уже хорошо, да? Полиэтилен вместо динамиков. Вот, смотрите, вместо динамиков это нормально. То есть здесь и задний ряд. Без подогревов, без центрального подголовника, без подлокотников. Вот, ребят, Веста нового поколения.
Just a quick reminder, this is the comfort package. However, the only comfort here is the seat, because you won't find a mirror over your head, no audio system, nor any buttons on the steering wheel. It's a car for those who appreciate silence, forced silence. But let's look at this from another angle, from the Russian angle. The Lada Vesta for 1.7 million rubles is not just a car, it's a philosophy. No music, so you won't get distracted from the hum of the engine. No mirror, so you don't have to be reminded of what you look like during or after the drive. No buttons on the steering wheel, because it's almost like a Tesla, only without electricity and with rust. Perhaps the next model will feature an exclusive new package, naked minimalism. And for a little extra pocket money, they'll even let you drive it. But let's be serious for a moment. This isn't about cars or new features. It's all about how Russia treats its own people. It's a country that's willing to cut costs on basic safety and dignity, all while asking its own citizens to pay a premium price for it. Sad. Very sad. And that's all for this episode of Break the Fake. I'm Skaya. Thanks for watching, and do stay with us here on TVP World.